Good morning, America. You are now hearing the first and most important podcast from the NEDE Eco Nation, a political and environmental commentary hosted by the Shaman Spieques. As you can see, all lives matter. This is important that we recognize all lives in America. Today's topic is gun violence with poignant and blunt comments from veterans. And this message has been prepared for all law enforcement leaders across our nation. But first, I'd like to bring you a quote from the great late newsman Walter Cronkite. This is important. Walter Cronkite in 1968 was standing in a rice paddy in the Mekong Delta in Vietnam. And he said, "This is Walter Cronkite with the CBS Evening News." He went on and did his feature stories about the war, and then at the end of his feature stories, he was standing again in the Delta, in the rice paddy, and he said, "This is Walter Cronkite signing off with the CBS Evening News, and we make the news." Please ponder that for a moment. Now think of how that statement would affect the media and what we're hearing today over the news broadcast each and every day. Just think about that. We'll be back to that in a moment. Let's get on and speak about gun violence. What is behind all the gun violence in our country? First off, guns do not cause death. It is people with guns in their hands that cause death. So how did we get to this point that we are in today? An excellent example is watching movies such as Lethal Weapon, starring Mel Gibson, Danny Glover. It is a prime example of gun violence. Even the most benign 70s era show, Charlie's Angels, was recently remade starring Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, and Drew Barrymore. It was an overpowering female role reversal of macho physical violence against men, and of course, it was all bang bang, shoot 'em up gun violence. There is just so much gun violence on the flat screen TV and in the movies. It's become an unconscious way to solve or eliminate most of our problems. What about the inner city drug gangs? Where do they adopt their mantra for gun violence and secrecy? Again, from the movies that glorified the selling of drugs and the gun violence needed to protect their turf. Every black comedian that had made us laugh has done their part in spreading the violence by starring in gangster-oriented movies about drugs and guns. It is also even glorified in rap music. The rapper Ice-T had a hit song about killing cops. He now plays a role as an arrogant, wise-ass cop, and that, to us veterans, is a disturbing role reversal for anybody to view. Let's move forward into the world of video games. What do they have in common with gun violence and the recent nationalized gun deaths? Just by putting these two factors together, I have noticed a connection. With the Jacob Blake shooting, there was upwards towards 7 rapid shots fired from a single automatic handgun. The comparison I draw from is from a cop show. They were chasing an assailant who fired 2 shots at the cops. The cop returned fire, completely emptying his semi-automatic weapon. He made a comment of, "I can't believe I emptied my entire clip." The very rapid popping sounds was just like a rapid firing sound of a video game. Video games are all the rage across our nation. There is data indicating that an extremely high number of law enforcement personnel play gun-violent video games. At the first shot fired, the mental game mode takes over. In the game, as you hold down the button, the sound of automatic gunfire is continuous. There is a loss of conscious reality and control. In the mindset of gamers, after hours and hours of playing with continuous firing sound, it becomes pure muscle memory, whether in the game or in real life. We veterans strongly suggest that all law enforcement agencies need to check with all personnel. If they play gun-violent video games at any level, they need to be put on desk duty or fired to save face with the general public they serve. This is but a casual observance that makes perfect sense, that has data to back it up. Find the data and read it and make the necessary changes. In the end, it'll save lives. Now, let's talk about the COVID-19 crisis. We've been hearing in the media how many cases, how many deaths. I've heard data saying that we almost have a vaccine ready. I understand that the government has paid for 300 million doses of this vaccine. How do we know it's going to work? In the state where I live, they've pledged these vaccines first to the first responders, doctors, and essential workers will receive them first. I caution you people about taking this vaccine because there's no sure way it'll cure the disease. The disease is mutating so fast, we do not know if it's even what's being made will have any effect. But there is one cure that seems to be working. Last night on the Shark Tank, one of Mark Cuban's business partners that he sponsored, her father contracted the virus and was hospitalized. He was in the hospital for an extended period of time, and then he was given the antibody treatment. He was able to walk out some days later on the road to recovery, but he was really, really sick. Studies indicate that persons that are the most sickest with the disease, most ill, produce the best plasma treatment. And if a person into the hospital and they are given the plasma treatment first off instead of these other chemicals, I really believe that there will be more people saved. We're approaching almost 250,000 deaths in our country. They say there's a spike rising. Again, I think about the comment of Walter Cronkite. How can we know for sure this is dire as it is? They're painting a picture they want us to see, most likely not the truth. They'll lie, 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 and hide the truth just to achieve a political agenda. So instead of being out in the streets, like this past summer, writing of police brutality and the death of a few drug thugs, we should be out rioting en masse peacefully over the handling of the COVID-19. Until we make demands and boycott anything, just just boycott. It's just we need to stand up for our rights. I'm getting emotional because I think about it. I'm in the high-risk area. I could easily catch the COVID-19, but there are things I'm doing to protect myself. I drink a lot of green tea, and I take vitamin D. I exercise. I'm not a couch potato. People in America spend a lot of their time they don't exercise. And if you don't exercise, you have a higher % of a chance of catching the COVID-19. do something for yourself. Start taking vitamin D and exercising and getting outside. Winter's coming on. There'll be less vitamin D from the sun. It's the best way to absorb vitamin D. I recommend taking care of yourself first and making sure your voice is heard about this plasma. Plasma will save America and the world, just like it saved the world in 1918. And to quote a comment from Walter Cronkite, this is the Shaman Spieques, signing off from his first podcast with featured comments and poignant comments by our veterans. I thank the veterans that participated. I'm their voice, and I want you to know my prayers are with all Americans. Good day.